Good to have you on International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network. Here we ensure the real on-time news package for the viewing pleasure of the people. And today we'll be looking at some numbers of stories, starting with Rwanda. Protests to have genocide, suspects delay in South Africa. On Sudan, military rulers visit Egypt as violence continue. And on Gabon, soldiers announce new leader.
From South Africa, fire outbreak killed at least 58 people in Johannesburg. From Japan, Defense Ministry requests 12% budget increase to bolster strike capability.
This and many more stories we'll be discussing when we return from this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Process to have genocide suspects delay in South Africa. The process to have Rwanda's genocide suspects file Ghana's Kashima tried to the UN court was delayed on Wednesday after a judge in South Africa postponed a transfer hearing. Kashima, who allegedly took part in one of the 1994 genocide bloodiest episode, was detained in May on the wind found outside Cape Town after more than 20 years on the run. In June, he applied for asylum in South Africa in a bid to stall a possible request for him to stand trial abroad. The United Nations International Rescue Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals eventually requested that he be handed over to the branch in Tanzania. But the legal procedure, which is different from the typical extradition, was the cause of some confusion, which prosecutors on Wednesday failing to file an application to start the transfer process. This is not a criminal case nor a civil case, so we are training news trained, said Eric Natazabla, a spokesman for the South African National Prosecuting Authority. Our understanding was that the matter was postponed to today so that he will have his own legal representative coming on board, and then we had planned a way forward. Kashima, who did not appear in court, is accused of overseeing the slaughter of more than 2,000 men, women, and children at the height of the 1994 genocide. Around 800,000 people, most of them ethnic Most of them ethnic Tutsis were slaughtered by Hutus extremists in over 100 days of Saka-stream violence. Friends of the 62-year-old former police chief believe he is innocent.
Sudan's military ruler, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, arrived in Egypt on Tuesday, his first trip abroad since the outbreak of fighting in April between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. He met with key ally President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to discuss the Egyptian leader's offer to mediate in the ongoing conflict. Burhan's visit came as medics and witnesses say 39 civilians were killed in shelling in Nyala, the capital of South Darfur State, where fighting between the two sides has intensified. On Monday, the general said his forces faced rebel groups who have committed war crimes in their attempt to seize power and that he would never sign a deal with them. But during talks in Egypt, he insisted the army wanted to see an end to the fighting. We in the armed forces are committed to setting a real transitional period in order for the Sudanese people to consolidate the state through free and fair elections that enable them to decide who will rule, he said. In their meeting, Sisi's office said he had reaffirmed Egypt's firm position in standing by Sudan and supporting its security, stability, and territorial integrity. Thousands of Sudanese have died and millions have been displaced in the war between Burhan and his former deputy-turned-rival Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, who commands the Rapid Support Forces. Daglo on Sunday released a 10-point vision to end the war and build a new state with a plan calling for civilian rule based on democratic norms and a single professional national military institution.
Communist soldiers in Gabon proclaimed their Republican Guard chief as the country's leader Wednesday, after placing the president Ali Bongo Ondimba, who was declared winner on Saturday's election, under house arrest. The co-leader said in an announcement on Gabon State TV that General Blaise Clotaire Oligui Momema has been unanimously designed president of the Traditional Committee to lead the country. Oligo is a cousin of Bongo. In a video from the detention, his resident Bongo called on people to make noise to support him, but a crowd who took to the streets of the capital insisted celebrated the coup against the diversity at cost of getting rich on the country's resources wealth, while many of its citizens struggle. Thank you, Army. Finally, we have been waiting a long time for this moment, said Yalda, standing in front of Republican Guards member who has helped stage the takeover. Co-leaders extended a nighttime curfew imposed after the August 26 election. Gabonese will not be allowed to move freely from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. A previous nighttime curfew ran from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. The president of the transition insists in the need to maintain calm and serenity in our beautiful country. At the dawn of a new era, we will guarantee the peace, stability, and dignity of our beloved Gabon, Mafonobi said on TV on Wednesday.
At least 58 people died when a fire ripped through a multi-story building in Johannesburg that had been overtaken by homeless people, emergency services said Thursday. Spokesman Robert Mulaudzi said another 43 people were injured in the blaze that broke out in the pre-dawn hours. He said the death toll was likely to still increase in what he described as effectively an informal settlement. Over 20 years in service, I've never come across something like this, Mulaudzi said. A search and recovery operation was underway and firefighters were moving through the building, Mulaudzi said. The team had pulled 58 bodies out so far, he said, adding that more might be trapped inside. At least one child was among the dead, Mulaudzi said. Authorities said the fire had been largely extinguished, but smoke still seeped out of windows of the blackened building downtown. Strings of sheets and other materials also hung out of some windows, It was not clear if people had used those to try and escape the fire or if they were trying to save their possessions. Mulaudzi said homeless people had moved into the building without any formal lease agreements. He said that made it hard to search the building. There might have been as many as 200 people living in the building, witnesses said.
Japan's defense ministry is requesting a nearly 12% budget increase that includes two warships with advanced radar and long-range cruise missile as it further fortified the nation's military in the face of North Korea threat and Chinese military advancements. The record 7.7 trillion yuan request for the 2024 fiscal year mark the second year of the rapid 5-year military build-up under a new security strategy Prime Minister Fumio Kishida government adopted in December. It focuses on the reinforcing strike capability in a bank from Japan's power principle of having military only for self-defense. Under the 5-year plan, Japan's plan to spend 43 trillion yuan through 2027 to nearly double its annual spending to around 10 trillion yuan, making Japan the world's third biggest spender after the United States and China. How to finance and justify the growing military spending is uncertain in a country with stepping decline bed and increasing cost of caring for its aged population. The budget request was approved at the Defense Military meeting Thursday and submitted to the Financial Ministry for negotiation. The request includes a lifted 490 billion yuan to start building two Aghanis radar-equipped warships that will be deployed in 2027 and 2028.
North Korea has said it's fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles as part of a tactical nuclear strike drill prompted by U.S.-South Korean military exercises, state media reported Thursday. The missiles launch, first reported by the South Korean military, came amid Washington and Seoul's annual All-Chief Freedom Shield exercises, which always infuriated Pyongyang. The North Army said in a statement that the missiles were fired late Wednesday in a tactical nuclear strike drill, simulating scorched earth strikes at major command centers and operational airfields across the border in South Korea. The tactical ballistic missiles were fired towards the East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan, just before midnight, South Korea's Yonhap news agency quoted Seoul's military as saying. The drill is aimed to send a clear message to the enemies, the army said in a statement carried by the official Korean Central News Agency. Pyongyang has conducted a record number of weapons tests this year. The North also staged its own command-level army drills on Tuesday in response to the U.S. South Korean exercises, during which the country's leader, Kim Jong-un, visited a training command post, KCNA said. The drill is aimed at letting all the commanding officers and staff sections of the entire army make full preparation for war, KCNA said of the training exercise.
The White House has warned North Korea against selling munitions to Russia for its war in Ukraine. As tension between Pyongyang and Washington continue to mount, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said Wednesday that the United States is concerned about the potential arms deal between Russia and North Korea. We urge the DPRK to cease its arms negotiation with Russia and abide to the public commitments that Pyongyang has made not to provide or sell arms to Russia, Kirby said, referring to North Korea by its official name. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Daeby, added that the U.S. believes Russia's defense ministry Sergei Shoigu tried to convince Pyongyang to sell artillery ammunition to Moscow when he visited North Korea and meet with its leader, Kim Jong-un, in July. The White House spokesperson declined the details how U.S. official has gathered the intelligence. The U.S. has been warning its competitors and adversaries, including China, against helping Russia in its military offensive in Ukraine.
Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida sampled seafood and talked to workers at Tokyo's Toyoshu Fish Market Thursday to assess the impact of China's ban on Japanese seafoods in reaction to the release of treated radioactive wastewater from the wrecked Fukushima Daiichi plant to the sea. The release of the treated wastewater began last week and is expected to continue for decades. Japanese fishing groups and neighboring countries opposed it, and China immediately banned all imports of Japanese seafoods in response. One of the seafood business operators told Kishida that sales of his scallops, which are largely exported to China, have dropped 90% since the treated water discharge. We will compile support measures to stand by the fisheries operators, Kishida told reporters after the market visit. We will also resolutely call on China to scrap its trade restrictions and have no scientific basis. China has stepped up testing on Chinese fisheries products, causing long delays at customs even before the water release and its ban. Government officials have called for Japanese consumers to eat more scallops to help support hard-hit exporters while finding new export destinations in Europe and the United States.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim urged Malaysians to unite and reject political and religious bigotry as the country marked its 66 years of freedom from British rule on Thursday, and fireworks as a street parade. Fireworks set it off in a various locations at midnight to urge its National Day. Tens of thousands of people thronged the government administrative capital of Putrajaya earlier Thursday for the main procession, waving national flags and cheering as band, dancers and convoy of vehicles went past. Anwar, along with the national's King Sultan Abdullah Sultan Hamid Shah, were among the dignitaries at the parade. In a televised speech on eve of National Day, Anwar appealed to Malaysians not to let their differences ruin their nation, the one that powerful nations has collapsed not just due to mismanagement or corruption, but because they play with fire of ethnic and religious fanaticism. Don't take it lightly, or differences can be a strength or a force that can destroy the fabric of society and the country, said Anwar, who took power in November after the vice general election. We can choose to continue to sow double and suspicious political and fiscal hatred, or we can choose to stay that enough is enough. Islam is the official religion in Malaysia, and by law, Malaysia, who make up over 2 to 3 of the country's 33 billion people, must strictly be Muslim and cannot convert. Malaysia also has large Chinese and Indian minorities.
Malaysia has rejected the latest edition of the standard map of China that lays claim to almost the entire South China Sea, including areas lying off to the coast of Malaysian Borneo. Tensions have been rising in the strategically important waters as China has become increasingly assertive in its claim, despite a 2016 International Court ruling that its so-called ninth dash line was without merit and superseded by the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. In recent years, it has built military outposts on rocky outcrops and deployed its Coast Guard and maritime militia, which has sometimes led to confrontations with other claimants, including Malaysia and the Philippines. Vietnam, Brunei, and Taiwan also have claims to the sea. Malaysia noted the new map, which clearly depicts the 9-dash line, showed China's unilateral maritime claims and that they overlapped with Malaysia's claims of its states of Sabah and Sarawak. Malaysia does not recognize China's claims in the South China Sea as outlined in the 2023 edition of the Standard Map of China, which extends into Malaysian maritime area, the Foreign Ministry said in a statement on Thursday night. The map has no binding effect on Malaysia. The tongue-shaped 9-dash line is based on Chinese historical records dating to Xia's dynasty nearly 4,000 years ago.
New Zealand lawmakers rushed Thursday to pass legislation and criticize opposition during a rolling final day of the nation's 53rd parliament. With an election looming in 6 weeks, lawmakers will now switch focus to the campaign trail. Opinion polls indicate and opposition conservation hold a slight edge over the incumbent Labour. Lawmakers took just 2 hours to introduce and pass a new bill to ensure that some violent sexual offenders will be kept under long-term supervision. Then the fiscal debate section began and allowed cheer, laughter and grooming. At one point, environmental posters interrupted by unfurling a banner saying there were too many cows before security guards escorted them out. Nicola Willis, deputy leader of the opposition, took arm and to Greg Robinson, the financial minister. Does he think we have been a good steward of taxpayers' money when government spending is up to 80%? Our hospitals are in crisis, educational achievement is in decline, and many New Zealanders feeling worse off willing ask. Robinson replied that the government was getting high marks from ranting agencies and had helped low-income families and beneficiaries. I confidence in reason spring is coming. Then members should cheer up, he said. Former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern won the last election in the landscape, but the Labour Party fortunes have turned side. Then has many people worries of COVID-19 restriction and feels the impact of the high inflation. Ardern stepped down earlier this year and Chris Jinping took over as Prime Minister. King asked many continuous policies to focus on the rising cost of living.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has called out what he described as systematic corruption in the country's medical exemptions from service in the armed forces, saying the system was subject to widespread bribe-taking and the flight of people overseas. Zelensky said the bribes of between $3,000 to $15,000 have been paid for medical exemptions from military duty. All cases of medical exemptions from service since the beginning of Russia's war on Ukraine, where there are suspicions, will be investigated, Zelensky said in his evening video address to the nation on Wednesday. It is necessary to check a significant number of decisions of the military medical commissions on disability and unfitness for military service that were made after February 24th, Zelensky said. In some regions of Ukraine, the number of people removed from the military register due to decisions of the medical commission had increased tenfold since Russia's invasion, he said. It is absolutely clear what these decisions are, corrupt decisions, the president said.
Six Ukrainian servicemen were killed aboard 2 helicopters while they were carrying out missions in eastern Ukraine, the military said on Wednesday. There was no indication what happened involving 2 widely used Mi-8 helicopters on Tuesday. A military statement on Telegram aired the men were carrying out mission in a sector of Russian-held eastern city of Bakhmut when they died. The news site Ukraine Star Pravda said the incident occurred near Kramatorsk, a large town where Bakhmut is in Donetsk region, theater of the surge of the fighting in Russia's 18-month invasion of its neighbors. Ukraine's Pravda said the two helicopters were completely destroyed and the body were found at the site. An Air Force spokesperson identified as Yevhen Ratskita told public broadcaster Sourceplane that the men abroad were officers. He said the service for the men would take place on Thursday in the central town of Prokava, but their identities were not being made public for security reasons.
Kosovo's president on Wednesday lashed out at France Emmanuel Macron for saying this week that Paris may review visa-free EU travel rules in 2024 for Kosovo and Serbia over their stalled talks on normalizing ties. President Vjosa Omani said any suspicion of visa-free travel to the European Union for her country's citizens next year would kill the dialogue once and for all with Serbia. EU lawmakers in April gave the green light for citizens from Kosovo to travel without visas for up to 90 days and 6 months in Europe's 27-nation Schengen passport-free area starting next year. Kosovo was the last country in the Western Balkans not to have such travel arrangements with the EU. On Monday, Macron warned that visa-free travel for both Serbia and Kosovo may be reviewed if both parties do not behave responsibly. We must be very careful in this regard, especially when the stability of the Western Balkans is at risk, Macron said. That would be the most efficient method to kill the dialogue once and for all. Osmani told journalists such measures are against the people. Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti's policies in the country's not strained relations with the Western powers after police-backed ethnic Albanian mayors took office following an election that the ethnic Serb majority in the area widely boycotted.
Italian TV host Andrea Gramulmo has been accused of victims blaming after he appeared to say young women could avoid rape by not getting drunk. Gia Bruno, whose partner is Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, was addressing recent alleged gang rape in Italy. In Sicily, 7 men have been accused of gang raping a teenager, while 6 youths are said he would have raped 2 young cousins in Gavano town near Naples. Gambruno, who since said his comments were taken out of context. Prime Minister Meloni has said she will visit Gravino on Thursday to show solidarity to residents in the wake of their attack in town that has struggled with the drugs trafficking and mafia-led organized crime. The mother of one of the 2 girls wrote to Ms. Meloni through a lawyer saying the family has received threats and abuse from their neighborhood in the Parco Verde area of the town. Meanwhile, the 19-year-old woman attacked on the abdomen building site in early July in the Sicilian city of the Palermo has gone on social media to say she has left her home for a protested community of victims of the violence. The gang rape was filmed by her attackers, and she is clearly struggling with the aftermath. She talks of fighting a battle with my head, but I act as if nothing happened, and I am still smiling.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on Wednesday proposed new legislative plans to hand power to judges to order horrendous criminals to attend their sentencing hearings and face justice by force if necessary. During a so-called crime week for the government, Mr. Sunak announced that the power of custody officers to use reasonable force to make criminals appear in the dock or via video link will be enshrined in law to help victims and their loved ones feel justice is fully delivered. If a criminal continues to resist attending their sentencing despite a judge's order, they will face an extra 2 years behind bars. It is unacceptable that some of the country's most horrendous criminals have refused to face their victims in court. They cannot and should not be allowed to take the coward's way out, said Rishi Sunak. That's why we are giving judges the power to order vile offenders to attend their sentencing hearings, with those who refuse facing being forced into the dock or spending longer behind bars, he said. The change will mean victims can look offenders in the eye and tell them of the devastating consequences of their crime as they read out their impact statements rather than addressing an empty dock. Most recently, Nurse Lucy Letby had to be sentenced in absentia after being convicted of killing 7 babies under her care. Our reforms will give judges the power to order offenders to come to court to hear the impact of their crimes directly from victims so that they begin their sentences with society's condemnations ringing in their ears, said UK Justice Secretary Alex Chalk.
This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network. We return shortly. Welcome back. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Britain's state-run National Health Service will be the first in the world to offer an injection that treats cancer to hundreds of patients in England, which could cut treatment times by up to 3/4. Following approval from the Medicine and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, NHS England said on Tuesday hundreds of eligible patients treated with the immunotherapy estalizumab were said to have under the skin injection, which will free up more times for cancer teams. This approach would not only allow to deliver convenient and faster care for our patients, but will enable our team to treat more patients throughout the day. Dr. Alexander Martin, a consultant oncologist at West Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust, said the NHS England said Extalonoc, also known as Tarzinic, is usually given to patients intravenously directly into their vein via a drip, which could often take around 30 minutes or up to an hour for some patients, which could be difficult to access a vein. It takes approximately 7 minutes compared with 30 to 60 seconds for the current method of an intervention infusion, the director said.
The United States has approved military aid to Taiwan under a program usually used to help sovereign states in a move likely to anger China, which claims the self-ruled democratic island as its own territory. The Department of State informed Congress on Tuesday of the $80 million package, which is modest in comparison with recent military sales to Taiwan, but marks the first time Washington has provided assistance to Taipei under the Foreign Military Financing Program, which generally involves grants or loans to sovereign countries. The announcement is likely to heighten tensions with Beijing, which has not ruled out the use of force to take control of Taiwan. The US and China have had formal diplomatic relations for 50 years, but Washington remains Taiwan's biggest backer. Legislation also requires that it supply the island with the weapons necessary for its defense, but these have usually been done on a trade basis rather than as direct aid. The State Department insisted that the first ever aid under the FMF did not imply any recognition of Taiwan's sovereignty. Consistent with the Taiwan Relations Act and our long-standing One China policy, which has not changed, the United States makes available to Taiwan defense articles and services necessary to enable it to maintain a sufficient self-defense capability, a State Department spokesperson said.
Brazilian influencer Lacera Bonges tragically died after she suffered a double cardiac arrest. She was 33. The influencer died on Monday after spending a week in a hospital, New York Post. Her family confirmed the news of her death in a post on her Instagram page. The pain of losing someone so young, just 33 years old, and so kind is overwhelming. Our hearts are broken, and the longing we will feel is indescribable. The family added that the social media influencers fought continuously for her life. According to the local media reports, the influencer was hospitalized on August 20th after suffering from cardiac arrest after traveling in a Gramado. She went into a coma. She suffered a second cardiac arrest and died shortly thereafter. The cause of her death is unclear, but a preliminary investigation said she may be intoxicated at the time of the heart troubles. There is a report of a possible ingestion of the narcotic substances accumulated with the alcoholic beverage, reports Deputy Cascavos Baracelios of the ongoing investigation. The body was sent to necrosis. We will try to search through laboratory states for substances that she possibly consumed.
Top U.S. Senate Republican Mitch McConnell appears to freeze up for more than 30 seconds during a public appearance before he was escorted away. The second such incident in a little more than a choir licensing rights raid morning, August 30th. Senate Republican Mitch McConnell froze up for more than 30 seconds on Wednesday during a public appearance before he was escorted away. McConnell, 81, was responding to questions from reporters after an event with the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce in Covington when he froze up, staring into space and not responding to reporters and others nearby. The incident raised fresh questions among Republican and Democratic members of Congress about some of their aging colleagues. After being approached by a second person, McConnell resumed speaking but needed reporters' questions repeated to him and only answered 2 more questions. The longest-serving Senate party leader in history, McConnell's voice was shaky and quiet. He said Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, a Republican, was far and away the best candidate for governor and declined to say whether he would support former President Donald Trump as the Republican nominee for president before walking away with a staffer.
Hurricane Indela brought thermal rain and treated of fresh flooding on Wednesday afternoon to southeast Georgia after slamming into Florida, where authorities feared a powerful storm surge as in untended communities in the Big Bend region. Authorities in Florida were still trying to carry out damage assessment in the hardest hit area as water rescue of trapped victims were underway in South Georgia. Video footage and a photograph from the region showed ocean water washing away highway and the neighborhoods stamped by the extended flood in the midday. More than 75 people have been rescued from the flood water in St. Petersburg. And the city said on the X social media platform, the video shows two rescue workers in a small boat traveling through the flooded neighborhood in heavy rain in Vladostar, Georgia, about 80 miles north of the Tennessee emergency. Boat crew were carrying out rescues of residents trapped in a home. According to the city's Facebook page, no other details were immediately available.
The U.S. expanded the restriction of exports of sophisticated NVIDIA artificial intelligence chips beyond China to other regions, including some countries in the Middle East, the company said in a regulatory filing this week. U.S. officials usually impose export controls for national security reasons. A sweeping set of rules announced last October signaled a major escalation of the U.S. crackdown on China's technological capabilities, but it wasn't immediately clear what risk exports to the Middle East posed. NVIDIA did not specify which countries in the Middle East were affected. The company got most of its $13.5 billion in sales in its fiscal quarter ended July 30th from the United States. China and Taiwan, about 13.9% of sales came from all other countries combined, and NVIDIA does not provide a revenue breakdown from the Middle East. NVIDIA did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The U.S. Commerce Department, which normally administers new licensing requirements on exports, did not immediately return a request for comment.
The U.S. Embassy in Haiti on Wednesday urged citizens in the Caribbean country to leave as soon as possible, citing security and infrastructure challenges as escalating violence has left thousands displaced and sent homicide soaring. U.S. citizens in Haiti should depart Haiti as soon as possible via commercial or private transport. The embassy said in a statement urging extreme caution. An escalating gun turf war in Haiti has caused a devastating humanitarian crisis that has displaced around 200,000 nationwide and left them 5.2 million people, nearly half of the Haiti population, in need of humanitarian aid. According to the United Nations, earlier this month, the U.S. Embassy in the capital, Port-au-Prince, was temporarily closed due to the gunfire in vicinity. I don't know, when I see something of this nature, when I see the way countries care about their citizens, even if they are in their country or they are in a neighboring country, it really gladdens my heart. It shows that, yes, the government really care for them to send this kind of concern for them, because a lot is actually going on there. Not like, I know there are a few countries that no matter what happens, they don't even care about their citizens there. I don't want to mention, but we have something of such, and the government is doing this to United States government is doing this to their people and their citizens in Haiti. Of course, I remember when they say that United States is, that their motto is we first before every other person. So it is United States first before every other country. And it shows here in every action they take, you will always see that really what they are talking about, the main thing, they're not just, it's not just a normal promise, it's not just making of headlines, but indeed they actually go all out to help their people. What do you think about this too?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The United States has really shown so much support and empathy for its citizens in any part of the world where they're having any form of challenge. But much more than their own citizens, we've also seen the United States stand up for other nations. And you would even ask, I mean, why are they being this nice to even other people? I think it's just part of them. This is how they have been over the years, and this is how they have continued to be. They are very philanthropic, they are very helpful, they always send support wherever the need arises. And some people say that this is one of the reasons that has kept the U.S. strong, because they are always there helping out others in the time of need, and so they'll always be strong to carry on with their charity works.
Well, I know. Anyways, when someone extends a helping hand, it doesn't really matter what the person's agenda is or what is in the mind. But again, I also know that they will not just go and fix their hand when nothing will definitely come out. You understand? I know they're very good at that. And of course, it's the developed nation, so they have all it takes to do whatever thing they want to do. But again, looking at, even when I know there was a time in Nigeria when a lot of crisis was going on, and then the first thing in their mind was to come take their people, was to come protect, to make sure that their owns are protected. You understand? So I think this is a good thing. This is something that other nations should also imbibe. When you see somebody do something good, something you know you don't have, something you know that is not in your capacity, and then you see someone do it, I think it's a good thing to leverage on, not just to read about it and be like, okay, it's because they have the money. It's not about money now. They care about their people. They care about what belongs to them. For them to go extra mile to make sure that their people are safe in Haiti, it is a good thing.
I think the U.S. operates, just like you said, we first, and they have so much value for life. I mean, it doesn't matter how old that life is. It doesn't matter the impact that life is making to the U.S. community. All they are interested is in a life. And as long as that life has an attachment, that is why you even see that even if you are not by birth a U.S. citizen, but probably you've naturalized, probably one way or the other you have become a citizen of the United States, they still have value for you. They tend to protect you most often than not when you fall into crisis, because they have value for lives. And I think it's a good one to learn. It's a good one.
It's actually a good one to learn. We have, bringing it back to Nigeria, of course we know that the government, they have done a whole lot to make sure that people are safe over there, especially all these traffickers and all those that are doing a whole lot. Yes, we really commend them for that, but I think they should do more. There's a room to do more, because like we said, our US, they have this passion, they have interest, and they have value for life. We should also imbibe this. We can, it's just like going to someone's house to go and tell the person what to do and how the person should go about it, and then you're not even thinking about your own. That is why we are saying, yes, we are talking about this as a nation too. This is also to encourage the government that they should do more. We have people that are stranded over there. We have a lot of them, even though a lot of persons say, no, they want to jackpot because, yeah, overseas is better than their locality. Honestly, they really don't know what they are doing. And a lot of them are crying out for help. We know the government is doing a whole lot, but again, we want them to.
I still think Nigerian government, to an extent, they are really trying. Our challenge for me has been the unnecessary bottlenecks that we experience. So if the government can do away with those unnecessary bottlenecks, unnecessary delays in sending aid and relief to people and trying to rescue the people from certain maybe war-torn areas, maybe crime zones, then we can actually be likened to do the same thing that the U.S. is doing.
To do the same thing. It's all about delay now. So we should learn from that aspect. Yes, we are commending you, the government. Yes, our government, you are doing a whole lot. But looking at the time, Michael, I'm going to just say the delayed aspect of it is, delay is dangerous, you know.
Right.
That's what he said. delay is very dangerous. So I think the government should also, look at these aspects, learn this. US, they don't waste time. At the moment they just hear that something is wrong somewhere, the first thing they think about is their people. How are they doing? How can we bring them back? How can we protect them? Let's learn from US. They are a developed nation. I think we can also learn from them too. This is a much we can take on today's show. Thank you so much, Anita, for joining me.
Thank you too.
I deeply appreciate. In case you miss out in any of the stories, don't worry. We have platforms for you to follow. But again, we really want to appreciate you, our viewers out there, for staying with us. I am Immaculata Jacob Rekana. In case you miss out in any of the stories, you can follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1. Or you can watch us live on our website at atlanticnetwork.tv. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and continue to stay connected on ATM Social. Still we come your next time.